I'm Megan, and thank you for joining me for number 5 out of our Somatic Yoga Shorts series, showing us how to find, engage, and strengthen some of the muscles of the deep core. Today's will be a side lying pose, and I call this the somatic crescent side stretch. So we'll start by coming down onto our left side. If you know you like a pillow, please feel free to grab a pillow. I tend to use my arm as my pillow. And you can just let your legs lay on top of each other into whatever position is most comfortable for you. New position, let yourself land and locate. Notice your breathing, and you might even take a hand to your right rib cage. See if you can feel your ribs move with your breath. There should be a sense of lifting and expansion as you're breathing in, and dropping and contracting as you breathe out. If you can, really direct your breath purposefully into your right lung. So this movement is going to look like it's about the arms and the legs, but it's really about facilitating core muscles, so particularly this right side. Left side is relaxed, we landing in that side, and the right side is the side we're going to be working through. So now, as you're ready, next inhalation, take your arm overhead, right arm, and just notice how your right side will stretch just a little bit, and exhale. You're going to take it down, relax it. So now this time as you reach the right arm, see if you can also breathe into the right ribs and imagine lifting the right ribs up towards the sky. So what will happen is the left side will contract and arch away from the ground. The right side will lift and exhale. Let the left ribs come back down. Let's do one more like that, just reaching the right arm. Think of lifting the right rib cage as you lift the arm. And exhale back down. Now let's add the second part of this. So now on the exhalation, instead of just letting the arm come down, think of reaching your arm, but not just your arm, but your armpit area towards your hip. So shorten the right side body. The other way you could do that is slightly pushing the left ribs into the ground. So there's 2 ways to create force, by pushing into the ground or pulling away from. So you might try pushing down with that left side, but that's going to be on your exhalation. You just want to sense how the right side is shortening. You can reach your fingers towards your toes. Inhale, release that. Exhale, just a little shortening. Sense the stretch through the neck. This one will give you the opportunity to work some of the muscles on the side of the neck as well, the scalenes and the SCMs. If your head is on your arm, you may want to drop it down if you're going to add the neck in. These are just options. So let's put those 2 movements together. Inhale and reach the arm, and if you want to add the head, gently press the side of the left side of the head or the ear into the ground, so you're lengthening the right side of the neck. Lift the ribs, and if it feels okay for your head, as the arm reaches and your armpit goes towards your waist, lift the head just slightly. You want to keep your gaze forward. Watch that the head's not forward, so base of the skull in line with the sacrum. And you're going to feel those muscles shorten through the right side of the neck. Inhale. We're going to lengthen the whole right side body, reaching through the arm. Maybe tilting that head a little bit, lengthening even the neck. And exhale. Coming back up. Watch that head forward. Keep the base of the skull back. So just see how this feels, working mostly with the upper body. And if you start to notice that it's really just your arm flying back and forth, you can even do this with your hand on your ribs or on your waist. So you notice that it's really, the power is coming from your core. The arm is extending to increase the amount of stretch, like it makes your skin feel all stretchy and good, right? But the power is coming from here. Doing a few more. Again, if your head doesn't like the movement, just leave your head on the ground. Work more towards the torso. One more for that right upper side, and then relax. So now we're going to bring the bottom half of the right torso a little bit more into it. So you may need to, depending on where your legs are, extend that bottom left leg just a little bit. We just don't want to tip over. And then extend your right leg and lift it up so that your heel is at the height of your hip. So if you were standing, your toes are in line with your hip. And we're just going to start from there because that's going to also activate that outer hip for us. And now, as you're inhaling, press the foot away from you, press through the heel and the ball of the foot, but not just the leg lengthening away from you. Take your right hip and press that away. If you place your hand right on your right waist, notice how you can lengthen the waist. Remember, we can lift up to create force, so you can lift the right waist up, or you can also lift the left waist up. And then exhale, fall back down. So feel the lengthening first, and as you exhale when you fall down, if you want to let the leg fall too, let that outer hip relax, you can do that. Let's find the other half of the hip movement. So lifting back up to the height of the hip. Now as you exhale, think of taking the thigh and the leg and plugging it into the hip, and you're going to take your hip and draw it towards your armpit. So you're shortening your right waist. So you can think of it just that way, shortening the right waist. You can also press your left waist into the ground, create the force that way. And then let's take those two together. When you're ready, inhale, lengthen the leg. Exhale, plug it in. So picture not just the leg or the foot, but that the torso is lengthening the leg on the inhale and shortening it on the exhale. Just do one or two more. Sometimes I get those cramps in the hip. If you are getting the cramps, what can sometimes be helpful is internally rotating the leg a little bit, so turn the toes downward. But either way, let the leg come down. Maybe you want to just roll your hip around a little bit. So we're going to bring those together. So take a moment to sense the left side resting on the ground. We're going to be working the whole right side. As you breathe in, right arm reaches, right leg reaches, but not just the arm and the leg. Lengthen through your torso. Lift your rib cage. Lift your right and your left rib cage. You might take the head into it. As you exhale, lift the head up. Keep the gaze straight ahead. Base of the skull in line with your sacrum if you're lifting the head. And then squeeze the hip towards the armpit. Inhale, lengthen the right side. So see if you can sense the right side body getting long and then short. And it's almost like the arm and leg are just going along for the ride with your shoulder girdle coming towards your hip and your hip coming towards your shoulder girdle on the exhale. And then they politely pull away from each other on the inhale. Just take a few. And then what I like to do is come to a point of complete relaxation. We'll do a second round. Let it all come down for a moment. Notice if you have a greater sense of awareness of your right side. We'll do one more round. Inhale, arch that left waist or lift the right waist. And remember how you can breathe into your right lung to help to create that levity. Might even take a few breaths there. And then exhale, like you're squeezing the breath out of that right lung. Bring your right armpit towards the hip and the hip towards the armpit. Inhale and lengthen. And exhale and shorten. If you find you like to add the head, but this is a bit much, the other way we can do it is take your right hand and wrap it around so your fingers are just above the ear. The only thing I'd caution you about doing it that way is really making sure the head's not coming forward. So you can do it from here and lift the elbow, but we're still moving from a side body. Take a few more, take a break at the end if you'd like. Just notice how powerful that right side can be. And what we're doing is we're creating a lateral bend, a side bend with the spine. So we're using some new muscles, and if we keep everything aligned, the nose with the pelvis and all of that stuff, we're getting into the multifidus, which are those long, small, but strong muscles all along the spine, part of the deep core. As I mentioned, we're also working some of the muscles in the neck. Take that break, relax. And we'll be switching sides. So I'm going to flip. I need to flip and flop. You may only need to flip. Side 2. The thing I don't like about these shorts is I want you to just roll on your back and notice your 2 sides right now. So if you want to take that extra moment to do that, please do. I'm being too efficient. Coming on to our right side now. You can use your right arm initially as a pillow if you'd like, or use a pillow underneath your head. Just sense your left side and breathe into the left lung if you can. So just your breath gets right into those muscles between the ribs. You can feel how they're stretching the intercostals as you breathe in, and then they're compressing, contracting as you breathe out. Get familiar with that feeling. And then when you're ready on the inhalation, reach your arm up overhead. See if you can feel like you're stretching your skin a little bit more opportunity to lift a little bit higher, and you can lift from your right waist as well on the bottom. And then exhale, just release it. Inhale, lengthen through the upper left waist and torso. Exhale, release. Do a few more with the arm, and if you find you're just reaching your arm and your torso's not moving, then try it with the arm staying on your body. Make this all about moving the torso, and the arm is just responding, creating a little more space. The power is coming from the torso itself. And then we'll add the second part. So now, as you're exhaling, instead of just letting the arm flop back down, think of reaching your fingers towards your toes, drawing your left armpit towards your hip. Squeeze, so you're squeezing those side muscles. You might also press the right ribs into the ground. Inhale, release. Exhale like you're squeezing out that left side body like a sponge. You'll get a little stretch through the side of the neck. Little movements. And if you're going to be adding the neck, you can drop the ear down to the ground. We'll do the 2 movements together. Inhale, reach the fingers, lift the waist. As you exhale, reach the fingers towards the toes, the armpit towards the waist. If you're lifting the head, look straight ahead, take the base of the skull in line with the spine. So usually we have to take the head back a little bit. You want to feel the muscles right in the side of the neck that come underneath the ear. Inhaling into the reach. You can stretch the muscles in the neck out as well. Exhale into the lateral bend. Remember, if you're somewhere in between, you can lift the head, but the arm extending is too much. You can place your hand, and so I want to make sure my hand's not to the front of my head or to the back of my head. In previous videos, that's where it was. My fingers are right above my ear, almost like it's like in a bowling ball, if my head was like a bowling ball. And the elbow comes straight up towards the sky, gaze forward. So again, my check for myself is I shouldn't be able to see my legs. Then I know my head's forward, I'm looking down. Inhaling and arching. And exhaling, curling up. Maybe you're doing it with the arm extended. And then squeezing. One more, focusing more on upper body. And then come down, relax. Feel free to roll your shoulder in circles as we prepare to go into the lower waist and your hip. So if your knees are really bent, you might want to just extend that bottom leg just so that you don't feel tippy. You're going to take the left leg, lengthen it, and lift the heel up to about the height of the hip. So I usually look first. Is it in a straight line so the whole leg is equally off the ground? And right there you'll start to feel some engagement. And then feel the heel and the ball of the foot and push that leg
like you're pushing into the floor, pushing on a pedal. And when the leg goes, take the hip too. If you took your hand to your hip and pushed your hip away from you, feel the lengthening of the waist on the inhale. And you can release just by drawing it back or drop it down. So inhaling and lengthening it. And exhaling, releasing. Again, you'll get those outer hip muscles too. Little bonus here. And use your breath. Inhale, let the breath facilitate this. Still fill your ribs and lengthen the leg. And now let's add the exhale, draw in. So instead of just letting it fall or release, think of plugging your left thigh bone into your hip and drawing your hip towards your armpit. So really shortening that left waist. Inhale, lengthen the left waist. And exhale, shorten the left waist. I really like to use my hand because then I can feel the movement with my hand. Sense how the movement is coming from your torso. Let it come down, let it relax for a moment. Feel free to just kind of circle your hip around if you'd like. Get those crabby muscles in the outer hip. And then we'll put those two together. So now feel your left waist. You can signal it to get ready just by breathing into your left lung. Lift the leg up, inhale, reach. You might even tilt your right ear into the ground just a little bit. Reach and lengthen the whole left waist. As you exhale, maybe you're adding the head lifting, so look straight ahead. Shorten, think of armpit towards hip, hip towards armpit. Plug the leg in, plug the arm in. And you can keep going through these, but sometimes it's nice to just take that rest in between too, right? Let the muscles relax. Otherwise, inhale into the length through the left side. Exhale and shorten. Eyes open or closed, whatever you see. I fight myself in videos all the time to try to keep my eyes open for you because somatics to me is very much an inward practice, right? And the way to go inward for me is to close my eyes, but see what works for you. Inhale and lengthen, and exhale, shorten. Again, option could be that you have your hand here. If so, lift the elbow all the way up towards the sky. If your hand is underneath your ear, you can do it from here. You can let that leg go or keep it lifted if you want a little more hip action. I also like to take it into the hold. So really lift that right waist on the inhale. Lift the left ribs. Breathe into your left lung for a few breaths. Challenge yourself to lengthen. So the muscles are still engaged, but they're long. And then shorten them and engage. Take a few breaths there, like you're squeezing the breath out of your ribs and your lung. And let it go. Circle your shoulder, your hip, anything else you want to circle around. Thanks so much for being with me for these somatic shorts. I hope that there's something that's really simple for you to remember so that you can incorporate them into your other practice. They make great warm-ups for yoga or any movements, anything you do. I do them before cross-country skiing to help to warm up our core. Peace, joy, love, and light.